Originating from the lands that Alexander of Macedon was unable to conquer in his quest for everlasting fame, a board game emerged that would spread across the Eurasian continent, planting its roots deep into socio-cultural soils of numerous civilizations, with some civilizations holding their given variant of the game in high esteem when it comes to that of strategic board games. Greetings, and welcome back to Checkpoint Gaming, Chess. With this episode, we will be going over Chaturanga, with Chaturanga, which is seen as the progenitor of all of the variants of chess, originated from India, and it is believed to have initially developed around 500 CE. When translated from Sanskrit, Chaturanga basically means 4 divisions, or 4 parts, with each of these parts representing Ratha, Gaja, Turaga, and Padadi. When translated, each of these divisions means chariots, elephants, horses, and infantry respectively. Each of these divisions also correspond to the different parts that made up the army of the Indian kings. With the details of the game that we go over here, they stem from the game that is played in the Indian state of Andhra Pradesh. And in the Telugu language, they call the game Chaturangam, which is derived from the Sanskrit word for Chaturanga. With the game board, it is the same as that of chess, with the right-hand corner of the board being that of either white or black when it comes to setting up the game. So just set up the board and you'll be good. When it comes to that of the chess pieces, they are typically that of light red and light green in color. With the placement of the king, it is always found to the right of the queen, with the black king facing the white queen and the white king facing the black queen. When setting up the rest of the pieces, they're to be placed in the same manner as that of chess. When it comes to that of moving the rook, knight, bishop, and queen, they're identical to their counterparts in chess. But when it comes to that of moving the king and pawns, they're slightly different when compared to that of their counterparts in chess. In addition to its base movement, the king has the ability to move as if it was a knight, but it can only do this once during the game. But if the king is yet to move and it comes under check, it will lose this ability. When it comes to that of the pawn, the 2-square initial movement is completely absent. When the pawn reaches either the 1st or 8th rank upon the board, depending upon the player involved, it is able to be promoted, but only into the piece that corresponds to the square of promotion. So if the square of promotion is that of a rook, the pawn gets promoted to a rook. And if the square of promotion is that of a king or queen, the pawn is to be promoted to a queen. That's because players can't have 2 kings found on the board. On top of this, the number of pieces that are found upon the board at any given time can't exceed that of the original number of pieces a player had at the beginning of the game. This extends to the black and white bishops, so if a player loses a bishop and one of their pawns reaches the square of promotion for the bishop that is still found on the game board, said pawn can't get promoted to a bishop. When a pawn reaches a square of promotion and the corresponding piece is still found upon the board, said pawn is immobile until the corresponding piece has been captured during gameplay. At this point, the pawn is to be promoted, and when a pawn moves to a square of promotion for that of a knight and it gets promoted, then it will get to immediately move like that of a knight. With Chaturanga, both players are able to start play with 1 movement each of 3 different pieces, or 3 movements of a single piece. With the capturing of enemy pieces during these initial movements, they're not allowed to occur. Generally speaking, these initial movements are used for purposes of castling. Players are also not allowed to put their king into a position where it can be checked by the opposing player. With the king being able to perform a move of a knight, it is typically done so that the king can be moved into a position that allows it to engage in castling. Castling in this manner can be done by both players, which results in their respective kings occupying positions that are almost diagonal from one another. With moving the king and rook so that they can engage in short castling and long castling, they are absent in Chaturanga. Chaturanga also has 2 basic variants to it that are known as Madatmari and Maramari. With Madatmari, it sees any piece that possesses support not being able to be captured, which can cause the game to take days to complete. This reminds us of the movie The Bodyguard, starring Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston, where Costner and his on-screen father have been playing a single game of chess for years. With Maramari, a piece will be able to be captured, even if said piece has support, not unlike that of chess. As the game progresses and a king has been left with only pawns upon the board, it is unable to be checked. The rationale behind this rule is that the weaker player, who only has pawns and the king, will be able to dodge defeat by only moving their king without moving their pawns. As a result of this, the stronger player will have to completely restrict the movement of their king without putting the opposing player in check, thus forcing the weaker player to move their pawns. And when a pawn of the weaker player reaches the square of promotion, said pawn will get promoted. From there, the stronger player can try to checkmate the king of the weaker player once again. In the situation where a king has been left with only one other piece, said piece is known as the mastu and is unable to be captured. Because of this single piece will be able to continue the attack and capturing the enemy pieces with this battlefield immunity. This can be compared to a member of the infantry of a sci-fi franchise with energy shields going against an enemy that only possesses spears and a loincloth. In this situation, the stronger player will have to do what they can to avoid this situation because otherwise it would suck for them. If this single piece is that of a queen or rook, then it gives them a powerful advantage. This can be compared to that of the US involvement in Vietnam in the 1960s and 70s, or the Soviet involvement in Afghanistan in the 1980s, where the technologically superior force was defeated by a technologically inferior force, demonstrating that better technology and military tactics doesn't always triumph in the end. Finally, when it comes to that of stalemates within Chaturanga, it is the same as that found in chess. It is worth noting that with Chaturanga, it is a slow game when compared to that of chess due to restrictions with piece movement. With that said, this slowness is partially compensated for by allowing both players to triple move at the start of the game. With chess, it can see a player become increasingly stronger, which encourages the weaker player to resign, and thus preventing the game from being fought all the way to the end. But with Chaturanga, it grants the weaker player numerous chances to fight back against the stronger player, and even win if played right, which is known as Dharma Yudam, or righteous battle. It can be quite interesting to see if academically minded chess players can incorporate the rules of Chaturanga with that of chess into a hybrid version. So with that said, that is what you need to know about Chaturanga. With that taken care of, we can start talking about setup for Chaturagi. If you liked this episode, feel free to give it a like, and if you want to stay up to date on any future episodes we upload, go ahead and subscribe. You can also support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/checkpointgaming. See you in the next episode, and happy gaming.